Today I had planned an open mic. It was going to be my first open mic. And I decided that I understand seizing the moment, I understand all that, but I also understand taking your time with something and making sure you do it right the first time. I know that my first set isn't going to be perfect, but I do want to at least have the jokes down. I've had 2 or 3 days to practice my 5 minutes, and I just didn't feel ready. It's not the crowd, it's just wanting to have the jokes down. So I figured I'm going to take some extra time to get my jokes down pat before I jump on stage. I was offered recently to go do a guest spot before Donnell Rawlings, and I was going to do it and it got canceled. Looking back, I'm kind of glad it did because I definitely probably would have bombed. Performing in general for me is really important because I've wanted to do it for a long time. I've always performed in my life since I was about 7 or 8 in some capacity. Even when I was 6, I was performing magic, or I was doing a podcast when I was 10, or I was doing plays in theater, something. I was always performing. And comedy just seems to be one of the most liberating and open ways of entertainment possible. It's you on stage saying whatever you want, as long as it's funny, anything goes. And it's just something that in the recent years I've really, really wanted to do. So it's very important to me. And that's why I want to make sure that my first time, especially if there's going to be a lot of people there to watch and it's going to be documented, is worthwhile and is well prepared at least. When I go to the open mics and the other shows, I always like to sit, I usually go alone and I'll sit at the back, maybe order something to drink or something. But I don't want to be in the environment, I want to be outside the environment so that I can really be observing what happens. I've got to see drunk hecklers and girls who think that just because they're attractive, they're owed the world and that this is their show. The typical cliches that happen at every comedy club, I've got to witness from the outside so far, and I've got to see how people handle it. But it's very interesting to be able to say, okay, this is what you do in this situation, and this is what you do when maybe the crowd isn't reacting the way you want to. It all goes into my memory bank. And since I've been listening to podcasts with comedians on them since I was 12 years old, I have all these stand-up comedy tips that kind of absorbed into my brain. So it's perfect. I have lots of reference to go on once I do get on stage.
Why are you bailing out of doing a set tonight? We talked on, when was it? When did I see you on?
We talked on
Friday. And we talked first of all about the doing the podcast. Mm-hmm. We got that ironed out.
Which went well.
And then you asked me, your question was, what should I expect my first time doing stand-up? What'd I tell you?
Don't be disappointed.
Right.
Yeah, which is true. Basically what I was thinking was, I just started writing a matter of days ago. I thought it might be a little better to wait an extra week and get more familiar with my own material before going on. So I was looking for your opinion on that.
Okay, but I'm not going to believe that you just started writing a couple days ago. I'll tell you why I don't believe that. Because of how many interviews have you done now? How many times have you hung out with your friends, or how many times have you hung out with your family? And you said something funny and you thought to yourself, that's funny. How many that funny moments have you had?
A lot.
A lot.
A lot.
So have you not taken a visual recall of some of those moments, or a mental recall of those moments, and thought to yourself, all right, well, this will be fun to play with, I'll try that?
Yeah, I have, and I've done a bit, and I have recorded myself doing a bit of a 5-minute set.
How many topics are you trying to touch on in 5 minutes?
3.
Okay, that's not too bad, and that's not overkill.
I have, should I say what they are to you?
You can, sure.
Okay, I've got my age, of course.
Here's the thing about, it's almost, when you write about your age, it's almost like writing politics. The joke's only going to last as long as that political figure. So the being 16 and being young will only get you so far for so long. So I'm not saying not to do it, but I'd suggest think bigger, because you have the capability to. So don't pigeonhole your, don't kind of give yourself a very narrow window of material. Give yourself a wide, and especially, I mean, a lot of the stuff you can be talking on can't even be stories based on so many of these interesting people that you have interviewed, or your time with Kiss. I mean, or hanging out with the Kiss drummer and
Yeah.
finding out that, hey, you're not Ace Frehley. I mean, there's so many things that you could be playing with, right?
Yeah, there's a lot
all right, so you want to talk about your age. What else do you want to talk about?
I have a bit of a bit planned out about being mixed race, saying you guys could probably there was something a little off. I'm half black, this and that, and maybe you should put your wallet halfway in your pocket and this and that. Just kind of working with some jokes on it.
Okay, avoid trying to fall into that trap of also being too cliche in the respects of race, religion. I mean, are you going to get away with more right now because you're younger? Absolutely. But if you set your standards and your bar a little bit higher, I think you'll push yourself to write better material from an earlier point on. So you're touching on race, you're touching on age, and what's the third bit?
Just screwing with people at Target. It was kind of a bit that was made up that I was going to say was something that actually happened.
Okay.
Saying, for my last day, I wanted to go out with a bang, tell these hot chicks that there was a sale on Slim Fast. They said it wasn't on sale. I said it better be. Just a little messing with people. So I don't know, just thinking of certain bits.
I like because you're taking, what I like about the Target stuff is you actually did work there, so you have a unique perspective. One of the best tips I've always was told in comedy, write stuff that you feel can't be stolen or delivered by anyone else. And not just to write from your head, but to write from your heart, because an audience can tell when you're passionate about what you're truly talking about.
Yeah.
But that said, I still don't think you should talk yourself out of getting that first time on stage. I don't know if another week of in front of a mirror, sometimes overthinking it and overanalyzing and being too analytical can be a downfall as well.
Yeah, that's very true. And that is something that I suffer with. I don't know. There's two options. The one is say, okay, wait another week, feel more better with your material, because the material I have is the stuff that you're saying,
You have to develop from somewhere. And it's actually going to be great when you play back your old sets and watch, and you're going to go and cringe and go, I can't believe I ever started with that joke.
Yeah, exactly, no matter what it is.
But it's more just to pop the cherry of getting on stage so that the next time you go up there, now your focus isn't, okay, this is my first time on stage. Now my focus changes to, all right, how do I make this time on stage better than what I did last time on stage? Or what did I learn last time that I can improve upon this time? To get over that hurdle of just saying, okay, I got done with the first time, I'm ready to move forward, I think that's a big deal. I'm not saying you have to go on tonight. I'm just saying don't discount it is maybe what I'm saying.
Okay. No, I definitely see where you're coming from. Well, it's something to think about, that's for sure.
All right, only time will tell now.
That's right. So today what I'm going to be doing is I'm taking another try at getting Mr. Gene Simmons of Kiss on my podcast. I've been calling and harassing his publicist. Back then it was harassment when I was 11. I'm sure they saw it like that. Since I was 11 years old, I've been calling his publicists. And usually in the beginning they would just laugh and hang up when I was 10 or 11. 12 and 13 they would just say no. 14 to 15 they would consider it and say no. 16 they're gonna say yes. I'm not taking no for an answer. Gene's gonna be here it's changed from January to May, where he's gonna be here for 4 or 5 days in Calgary for the Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp. And I'm getting him on my podcast. So I'm gonna make a call to HarperCollins Publishing for his new book, Me Inc. I always get nervous before these calls for some reason. Probably because they usually say no. Hi Megan, this is Cassius Morris calling from Edmonton, Alberta. I was just calling to follow up on my Gene Simmons interview request I sent a little while back now. It was actually sent in December. I've had a lot of new developments on my show. We're getting hundreds of thousands of hits worldwide, and I've had members of KISS on since my last request. And I'd really like to speak with you about Gene being part of my documentary and my podcast. Thanks, take care. So that's pretty normal. A lot of the times they don't answer. and they don't call back, although I do usually give my number anyway. So what I do from here is I'll usually just send an email, and this time I'd really like to get one of them on the phone, because it maybe makes us more human than just an email interview request. So I'll try another number here for another person I have, and we'll see what happens. Now I'm gonna bet that an assistant is gonna answer this, because even publicists have assistants these days. It's PMK BNC, which is a Beverly Hills company. So I usually need to do a lot of hunting for the phone numbers, because they don't like being called very often at places like this, but people like me somehow always end up calling them. So I'm pretty sure that they're just going to give me an email.
PMKVNC.
Hi there, is Kristen Foster's office available?
I will go ahead and transfer you over. One moment, please.
Thank you very much.
Kristen Foster's office.
Hi there, I just had a quick request for you. My name is probably on file. I'm calling from the Cassius Morris show in Alberta. And
Okay.
I was just calling to follow up on a request, and I was wondering if Kristen was actually available for a phone for a second here.
You know what? Unfortunately, she's not available. The best way to get in contact with her is via email.
Okay, so if she's not answering the emails, what's the best course of action?
The best way is to just continue to follow up.
Okay, I understand she's busy, so I understand that. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.
So that there is a classic keep emailing so that we won't answer you tactic. Basically, it goes in a cycle. The assistant guards the publicist, and the publicist guards the artist. If you're lucky enough to get through straight to the publicist and they say no, you can't blame the artist, because the artist never hears about it. I'm sure Gene Simmons may not even be aware that I've been trying to contact him for 7 years. But that's classic, so that was completely expected. So I guess I will fire off another email and see what they have to say. Some people seem to think that it's pretty simple just sitting here in my little home studio and making calls and such, but what they don't understand is that I don't just get these guests overnight or media respect overnight. I've been doing this for 7 years, which isn't all that long, but it's long for me because that's most of my life so far, and I just started getting respect, a minuscule amount of respect, just recently. So it doesn't take as little time and as little effort as people imagine, and a lot of the calls you have to make are just like this. I get a lot of no answers. I've sent hundreds of interview requests, and I've probably got a fraction of that answered. So we'll make another call. But a lot of these people, by the way, are in posh Beverly Hills PR offices, and the little guy out in Edmonton doesn't really appeal to them, but that'll change fairly soon, I'm sure. It's going through my head. I pretty much feel like I should probably go on, but I most likely will wait. But part of me wants to go on. The other part of me is nervous of the extremes. Let's say, oh, I get sick on stage and make a fool out of myself and this and that or the other. But I'm not sure if that's because it's so soon after I started writing the bits or because it's just the way it is. The only way to tell that would be to wait. So I'm kind of flip-flopping right now. I'm really not sure.
I didn't even know that he was doing podcasts when I met him. I didn't even know about him being on Adam Carolla's show. I didn't know any of that. The fact was he was a young kid who he had that just that desire, and you can see it in his eyes, and you can see it after talking to him and even seeing how many shows he's recorded already. I mean, that type of dedication to an art of any kind is to be commended, because when you start in this industry, or any artistic endeavor for that matter, no one gets in it for the money. Believe me, I guarantee you Cassius didn't say, I'm going to start doing a podcast because it's going to make me a gazillionaire. No, he did it because he was interested. He found something that he liked doing. He found a passion. He realized, hey, I like comics. I like the art form, and he pursued it. So that really was the initiator. That's what got the ball rolling, and kind of snowballed from there to now he's recording the podcast live out of the club, and hopefully in time we'll build up a live audience, and maybe that will translate to him making a few bucks. And additionally, it's I think it's kind of cool for him to get exposed to, I mean, not that he hasn't done a good job on his own, but the fact is, some of these headliners are friends of mine, and if I tell them, hey, look, give the kid an hour of your time, more often than not, they're going to say yes, because at the end of the day, they still have to get their check from me on Sunday. Whether he ends up as a stand-up, whether he, just doing this interview stuff right now, who knows? This could easily lead to TV production. It could easily lead to, doing a TV-based show or an internet-based show that's not podcast, maybe something that's visual. I believe that his calling has found him as much as he found his calling. And I know that my operations manager here, Dino, is giving him a job working in the club here. So I said, as long as your parents are okay with that, I'm fine with that. But that's going to be such a great environment for him to be around creativity all the time. It's just going to spark a fire and ignite a fire within him that's only going to keep, he's already got the spark, and this is only just going to keep adding fuel to that fire.
Basically, I was going to possibly go on. There was an open mic tonight, and at the end of the day, it looks like there wasn't a show. There wasn't a show at all. There needed to be about 10 people getting in there, and there was nobody. And my gut at first was telling me not to go on, but then it started to shift to say, do go on. But that ended up not being an option. Rick gave me a lot of good advice and a lot of good encouragement. And I feel like now that he gave me that, I didn't have enough time to digest it in 20 to 30, 45 minutes and go right on stage. So now that I have that information, I can cut parts of my act, add new ones, and work on others. And when I am ready enough, or as ready as I can be, is when I'm going to be able to go on. So it's kind of hard for people to understand that, which is understandable.